Yeah, I don't give a ton of respect for just surviving the 12 rounds. Like, I mean, like that's kind of one of those overrated things. I'm like, yeah, okay, you lasted 12 rounds, you lost all 12 of them though. And like, what was the point? Like, yeah, no, but you're right. He's a very tough guy. People kind of expected him to get knocked out. Obviously, that didn't happen. But I don't know. I mean, it's like Jose always says with football. If the first thing they say about you is you're a great person, that means you're not very good at playing football. If the first thing they say about you is you're a tough guy, that means you've been taking hits for a long, long time and not sending much back.
Yes, Ring Kings podcast is back. Listen, Canelo versus John Ryder. It was everything we expected it to be. It was every bit as hyped up as it was meant to be. And we're going to talk about it. And yes, that's the fight that happened last night. We'll give you our reaction to it, our thoughts on what's next for Canelo. Spoiler alert: Canelo won. We'll talk about what's next for Canelo. We'll talk about, is he still the face of boxing? And we'll talk about an upcoming fight between Devin Haney and Vasyl Lomachenko. So, fellas, what's good? Mikey, B, what's up with y'all?
We're not gonna talk about what's next for John Ryder.
Who?
The best British fighter Canelo has faced.
That's high praise from Canelo, man.
It is. I didn't realize he's fought that many Brits.
Yeah, 8-0. Yeah. That was one of the selling points going into this fight. Oh, he's 7-0 against British fighters, and
I calling it Canelo Kingdom.
Yeah.
So, okay, listen, John Ryder never had a chance. Let's just be real about it. Okay. The only thing he could take away from it is he did not get knocked out. Canelo made a promise that he would put him away. It looked like he was going to put him away early, and John Ryder got a second wind, and he was able to sustain more hits later on in the fight and make it to a decision. But there was at no point was John Ryder ever going to turn the tables in this fight.
I agree. I'm upset because when he knocked him down in the 5th round, I had a nice little bet that it would happen in that round, so I got excited. Like, this is it. But no, man, I don't think he ever had a chance. But he showed a lot of toughness in the fight, man. He look, his nose was for at least 80% of the fight was just leaking. And for a lot of fighters, man, that would they throw the towel in on that. So I give him props, man. He got up. He looked to be a little wobbly after that, but he fought through it, man, and he finished off the fight. Tough guy, man. Look, a lot of people looking at, okay, yeah, he got to know his nose was bleeding. Clearly, it had to be broken, and it was hard to stop. Obviously, he had problems stopping the bleeding, but and then a lot more things come along with that, trouble breathing and other things like that. People don't realize that. So, yeah, man. I gained a little bit of respect for John Ryder, but he never had a chance at all of being at all in contention of winning that fight.
Yeah, I don't give a ton of respect for just surviving the 12 rounds. Like, I mean, like that's kind of one of those overrated things. I'm like, yeah, okay, you lasted 12 rounds, you lost all 12 of them though. And like, what was the point? Like, yeah, no, but you're right. He's a very tough guy. People kind of expected him to get knocked out. Obviously, that didn't happen. But I don't know. I mean, it's like Jose always says with football. If the first thing they say about you is you're a great person, that means you're not very good at playing football. If the first thing they say about you is you're a tough guy, that means you've been taking hits for a long, long time and not sending much back.
He's a hard out.
Yeah, he gonna make a lot of money being that harder. I think this fight just made him a lot of money.
Like,
Yeah.
he gonna make you work.
Yeah.
Like, all
Look,
right.
you want a tough fight? All right, man. We're gonna call John Ryder.
He's a gatekeeper.
Mm.
All right. And there's a place for that in the sport. We're joking, but there's a place for that in the sport. And yes, he was a game fighter, and there were some things that he did expose that kind of concerned me about Canelo. And Mikey, you and I talked about it earlier today. Canelo has not looked like that prime Canelo for a while, right? And this is another fight where I felt like he needed to go out there and show his boxing skills, and he was pretty flat-footed and trying to walk down his opponent, especially after he knocked him down, right? And in that second half, John Ryder can't believe that Canelo would get winded and that'd be his opportunity, and it was. John Ryder landed a whole lot more punches in that second half of the fight. It just didn't affect Canelo. But what I saw from Canelo, man, not very good head movement, not a lot of footwork. And defense didn't look great. Now, he still had enough skills to comfortably win, right? That's just, Ryder's not on his level. But he's talking about a rematch with Bivol. Everybody else, I mean, we're all looking beyond, I don't know how many more fights he plans to take, but, there's no more avoiding the Benavidez talk, right? I mean, we can avoid talking Jamal Charlo. Charlo ain't fighting nobody, but I mean, Andrade and fighters like that. Was the other one Morel?
Morel's very, very early on. Like he's not in that conversation yet.
Yeah, but there are some fight.
Benavidez for sure.
Yeah,
after the Caleb Plant fight. But that's kind of always been my thing with those guys. Like they weren't doing enough to really press a conversation of, hey, Canelo got to fight me. Benavidez is, the others. I mean, Morel's just early. I think that he would, but
I would agree. Yeah. But he just fought a guy that already had 5 losses, and he's. I mean, I don't want to no diss to John Ryder, but he's not those guys that we're talking about. Right?
No, he's not. But again, Canelo's not under any obligation to fight those guys, right? He's taken a lot of tough fights in a row, and he took a fight off.
Yeah,
all those guys have been taking their entire careers off, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, no, I hear you.
Because none of them have fought Andre,
but
they
yes,
haven't fought each other and all, and all that. So,
but the concern is, and why people think, man, some of these guys can take Canelo is because how he looked last night. He didn't look great, right? He just dominated a guy that just wasn't on his level. He looked better in Triple G fight, I think, but Triple G again, he's like 45, right? And then he didn't look good against Bivol. Like the Bivol fight, I told Mikey, man, that was a fight. Watch was like, I don't recognize this dude, right? Like you're not. This is not the Canelo that I knew that in his prime that had it all, right? This guy thought he's gonna go in there and walk down a bigger guy, and then when that wasn't working, he made no adjustments. He was just getting his head rocked, right? And I just haven't seen much more, boxing skills coming out of him. Like I thought after that fight he would go back to more, ring work. You know what I mean? And he hasn't really done it. I don't know if he can do it at this point.
Yeah. Canelo, man, look, he's 32, right? But he's an old 32, as we discussed earlier, Jose. Like, he has a lot of wear and tear on that body, man. He has over 60 fights, right? Yeah. For somebody that's 32 years old to have 60 plus fights, man, like that's a lot of work he put in that ring. So it starts to catch up, right? I don't think he looked great. I mean, but it's crazy to say that because he clearly was in control of the entire fight, in my opinion. Never at one point did I think like, oh man, this guy can steal this from him, right?
Not at all. Not at all.
Like we saw in the Caleb Plain fight, Caleb, had some solid rounds up until the point where he got his head knocked off, but Canelo does seem to fall into fighting off of his back foot sometimes. And that lets guys, especially guys that like to jab and move, you know, that tends to allow them to be in the fight. Prime Canelo wouldn't finish a guy like John Ryder last night, right? Um, you know, we just haven't seen that in him, I guess, his last couple fights. So does this mean he's on the downward side of his career? Possibly, man. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where he goes with his career from here, who he will fight. But there's a lot of young guns, heavy hitters that, you know, are waiting, I guess, for their chance. And I think part of the reason why they want that chance now is because they sense a Canelo that might be on the downward side of his career. So now it's, you know, hey, this might be the time to get him. But I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. Like, I agree with you, Jose. He used to be a guy who showed a little bit more ringmanship and just being a pure boxer, and not just a guy that's power. But I don't know if he's just relying, you know, trying to. He knows he can knock guys out. He's used to being able to knock guys out, and I don't know if he's just relying on catching the guy. But he has seemed to slow down in some aspects of his game for sure.
Yeah.
I think most of what you're seeing from Canelo recently is just arrogance. You know, particularly with the Bivol fight. Like, he thought, you know, hey, I'm Canelo. I'm the man. I'm going to walk him down. I'm going to beat him up, and I'm going to wear him down and knock him out. And when it wasn't working, didn't even bother to change tactics. Just said, no, I'm going to keep doing it. We got 2 more rounds.
Yeah,
he'll fall, right? And you know, again, against Triple G and John Ryder, I think he went into those fights thinking, I don't need to do anything else.
Yeah,
and it's true, right? He's just better than those guys, and he just beat those guys. So the test for me is going to be if he fights Bivol again, or, you know, Benavidez, whoever the next, you know, fight is. If you see any difference in him, particularly Bivol, because I mean, I think he'll probably feel that way with Benavidez as well. But particularly if he goes and fights Bivol, if he goes out and fights the same way, then I'll be like, you know, I think he's probably just past it.
He should not feel that way against Benavidez.
Maybe not, but I think he probably will. I think he'll probably say that Benavidez isn't going to hurt him, and that he'll walk him down and beat him. But, you know, whether that's true or not, I think he'll feel that way. And like I said, so if it's a Bivol fight, you know, if he comes out and fights a different style, then I'm like, okay, well, you know, maybe it was just him being a little overconfident in these fights, a little comfortable in these fights. If he goes out and just fights the same kind of plotting, you know, I'm coming forward no matter what style, then, you know, I think maybe he's you know, like Mike said, he's a little older, and he's not the same guy. Although I'm not gonna go with the wear and tear on him because of 60 fights, because on Lunch Break Hot Take, we're going to talk about a guy who has 300 fights at the age of 25, and he's doing just fine. All right.
So. Oh yes, I cannot wait. That's going to dominate. We're going to talk more about that than the UFC fight, man. Jesus. 300 fights, man. He won. Wait, he won like 260. I don't want to get on top of it.
274 now, I believe. 274 and 42, something like that.
It's the same feeling I have when we talked about Homicide Hank, right? You beat up over 200 people. You're one of the baddest men walking the face of the planet. I don't care. You can't find 300 tomato cans, okay? Some of those guys are like real fighters. Like, you beat up 300, you beat up 270 people?
Yeah.
I don't ever want to come across you. Okay, what's next for Canelo, right? He said after the fight that he wants to take on Bivol. He wants that rematch, but he wants it at 275? Is that where they fight at?
175.
I'm sorry. I'm still stuck on Rotang. So he wants that fight at 175. Bivol said, nah, man, let's go down to your house. You were at my house last time, you know. Now I want to go down to your house and take them belts up off of you at 168. So the question is, where should this fight be? 1, 2, does a fight happen? because Bivol is at a point in his career. Bivol already said, I don't care about the money, right? I mean, I'm fighting for glory. He wants those belts. He could stay at 175 and fight. What's the other guy's name? Me and
Better
Mike.
BF.
Better BF. Okay. Yeah. He wants to fight Better BF and become the undisputed champion. So there's something for him right there. He doesn't need to go down, or he doesn't need to take another rematch at that weight class to fight Canelo, and he doesn't get a belt out of it. Now, the incentive for him is going down to 168 and being the undisputed champion there. But then, then there's a risk for Canelo. Hey, I'm going to lose the belts here. Then I won't have any belts, right? So should the fight happen at 168 or 175? And does a fight happen at all? That's the question I'm going to ask you guys.
I don't think it happens. I don't think because they both fighters seem to be hell bent, right? Canelo made it clear 175, same terms. That's where I want to fight at. It appears that part of what's driving Canelo in that is he wants to avenge that loss, which I can respect. Bivol is saying, "Well, I'm gonna fight you at 175. I already beat you there, right? I need some incentive too, right? So let me come down. You'll put the belts on the line. I'm coming down to your house." And he said, "I feel like you'd have a better chance to beat me at 168. That's your house. That's what you say. I feel like you got a better chance to beat me there. So let me come down to you." But both fighters appear to be dug in, feet dug in the ground, and they're not budging. So I don't think it happens. No time soon. I'll say that. I don't think it happens anytime soon. Now Bivol says, like you said, he's not driven by money. Right now, we'll see what kind of money gets thrown into a rematch of that fight. But right now, I don't see it happening. I would prefer to see it at 168 myself, because I didn't even want to see it at 175, to be honest. I mean, it ended up being a good fight, but I didn't want to see it there. So to draw me in, I would rather Bivol come down, the straps on the line, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I don't really know. I'm not super interested in seeing the Bivol and Canelo rematch. I think the Bivol is just too big for him, and I don't really believe that that Bivol has any interest in actually defending 168. Like, I think he just wants to, right. I think he wants to take him from Canelo and then probably drop him sometime after that. My preference would be Canelo goes and fights Benavidez, Bivol goes and fights Better BF, and then maybe those two fight at a catchweight without the belts on the line necessarily. Just the two undisputed champions fighting each other at a catchweight and see what happens there. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that Canelo is going to want to put those 168 belts on the line, and like I said, Bivol probably doesn't really see any point in running back what happened the last time where he won 12 out of the 12 rounds. So,
right. Yeah. So you answered my next follow-up question. If we don't see that fight happening, what's next for both of them? But you answered it, right? So Benavidez looks like the next move for Canelo. Do we agree? Like if they don't get the Bivol fight done?
I think that's what we want to see. I mean, I would be on that. I would love to see that. I don't even know if that happens next, man. It's hard to say.
It better not be a John Ryder 2 fight.
Nah, but I like I told you this morning, man. I saw this morning reading an article that Berlanga's name is being floated now as somebody potentially next for Canelo for some reason. So, even though Berlanga is a known name in so many ways, like that is another John Ryder fight in a sense, right? Just because, Berlanga, Berlanga ain't. I mean, look, he's coming off of a down, kind of a down point in his career. He didn't look the same as he did, previously, right? He's the name. I think they'll be able to sell it obviously more than a John Ryder fight. But as far as being the layoff that Berlanga has had and jumping in the ring with a Canelo, and I'm sure he'll probably fight again before that. But I don't know, but that's a name that's being floated now too. So will Canelo look at that and say, all right, here's a young guy, here's somebody who has a Puerto Rican fan base. I have the my fan base, and you seen what I just did back home in Mexico. I filled this place up. It's a potential fight that'll do numbers. So will he look numbers wise, or will he look and Benavidez, he will do numbers too. I don't want to, you know what I mean, but that might be
Mexican versus Puerto Rico rivalry is.
But that might be a route that Canelo can say, all right, I'll go this way, and then maybe go around to then meeting the Benavidez. You know what I mean? Rather than just going straight to Benavidez. So I don't know. I would like to see that, but I'm it's back to how we felt about even the Tank Garcia at one time happening, and then how we feel about now about Spence and Crawford. Like, it's just, I don't know if I don't want to get my hopes up in that, but I would love to see it.
Yeah, and I think that's a kind of almost like a Floyd move, right? Like, that's what Floyd did with Canelo, essentially, right? He took a guy who was not ready for that level of fight and said, hey, he's got a lot of hype behind his name. This is going to be a big fight. I'll go and school him for 12 rounds. And that'll be easier than maybe some other potential fights, right? I think that's an easier fight than a John Ryder fight too. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, and you might be right. Obviously, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you.
That would be clownish. But yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those things where he's the champion, he gets to pick, and none of these guys have really made an argument to be the next guy. Like, we're saying Benavidez, but Benavidez has kind of one high level. I mean, he beat like Anthony Durrell a few years ago, but he beat Caleb Plant. That's why we're all saying that. But he didn't even look as impressive beating Caleb Plant as Canelo did, right? Yeah. So Canelo, if you're sitting there, you're the champion and you're looking at these guys, what is the argument that they are making to you that, hey, I should be next, right? Yeah. And it has to be because it's not something, hey, I've earned it in the ring. So it's got to be, hey, we can make X amount of dollars doing it. And I don't know which guy is going to make the most money in a fight with Canelo necessarily,
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if he takes a Berlanga fight, right? The argument is these guys have a better resume than Berlanga. These guys have a better resume than John Ryder, right? Like, and nobody thinks that these guys are on that level, right? Like, and I don't agree. I disagree a little bit. Like, it is kind of a similar situation to when Mayweather fought Canelo, but the thought at the time was Canelo was better, right? Like, he was hyped up to be, hey, because he just beat Shane Mosley, right? And like just convincing fashion. Shane Mosley had a had a little flash in the early rounds against Mayweather, and people were hyped up about it. But there's a thought that Canelo could beat Mayweather, right? Nobody thinks Berlanga could beat Canelo.
No, but I think a lot of what played into that was people hating, like legit hating Floyd Mayweather, media included. Right, because there was thought that, what was his name, Paul Williams could beat Floyd Mayweather,
right? But
promoter included. Oscar hung that boy out to dry.
He did.
He wanted his own personal feelings in that too.
Yes, but you're right, Mikey. Yeah. But Canelo was hot though. Like, he was putting away guys. Berlanga is not so hot right now, right? And
yeah, no, absolutely. It's not exactly the same. I'm just saying it's hey,
similar.
This is a popular young guy who's absolutely not ready to be in the ring with me. Let me go and pick him off and make probably similar, or if not more than a more dangerous fighter.
Yeah. And here's the thing, man. Like, because we like Berlanga here, right? Look, there are some people out there that think Berlanga just ain't got it, right? Yeah. He won't be able to make adjustments. I believe he needs more time. Yes, he's 25 years old. People might say he should be ready. Man, you're ready when you're ready. I don't think he's ready yet. I think there's some things that he needs to refine. I think he can work on that. I think he needs a better trainer, but I think he can work on that. He needs a little bit more time to work on that stuff before he's ready to take on that kind of fight.
And he needs more rounds, right? Like his first 16 fights, he had 16 rounds.
Yeah.
Like he needs more time in the ring before you can really bump him up in level of competition.
Yeah. Let's hope that's not the next fight, man. I don't want to see that from Canelo either.
No. Styles make fights, man. And that's another thing. Like, right now people are quick to, say, all right, Benavidez, well, Canelo can't mess with him. But we know Styles makes fights, man. Both of those guys kind of stand there, Maybe if we see Canelo, we see the Canelo with a little more movement in that fight. Maybe he gives Benavidez a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that type of fight, even for Berlanga, maybe it fits his style if Canelo is gonna sit there and fight off his back foot. Because even though we've never seen Canelo down, may have seen him hurt a handful of times, if that. But that may suit a Berlanga style. Somebody that he can catch who will be there in front of him that he can catch with a punch. So I don't know, but I'm with you. Like, obviously, the fan wants to see the top guys fight. Either these new young and upcoming guys or the next top guys, right? But I agree with you, B. It is very similar to how Mayweather was doing towards the end. Mayweather was. He was strategic in who he was picking because it was also about money. Of course, like of course I can fight such and such, right? But is that gonna sell like me fighting Guerrero or Cotto and those guys? Like, he was strategic in who he chose to fight. So we'll see. Canelo, I feel like Canelo, he feels like he's earned that right, and I think he has, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had a choice in the last two fights, right? It was, hey, you can get Charlo and Benavidez, or you can get Bivol and Triple G again. And he he went the route that he decided to go. So I feel like he's earned that right. He also feels like these young guns ain't fighting each other, so why should I fight you, right? So, but it is that time, right? We want to see the top fights. So. And being the top dog as he says he is, the face of boxing as he says that he still is, we want to see you bang out with these guys.
And that's, you said right there, that's the biggest thing for me, which is why I don't criticize Canelo as much for the fights that he takes, is those guys are just sitting around not doing anything.
Yes.
You're
right.
That not one of them is saying, you know what, if he's not going to make this fight right now, he thinks it's not, it's not profitable or he doesn't have to do it, I'm going to make him take it by going out and beating Charlo, by going out and beating Andre, but they're just kind of sitting around. And, it seems like Benavidez is getting to that point now where he's like, I got to go and make something happen. But it's been a long time.
You can't argue that. Absolutely. You're right, B. You can't argue that. These guys should have been trying to make fights with each other and they're not doing it. They're hanging around waiting for Canelo. You got to do something in between. Charlo, man, you guys know how I feel about the Charlo brothers, man. I love those guys. But Jamal, I can't. I mean, it's been 2 years, bro.
It's like the Triple G fight has just been sitting there waiting for you. And he's in your own division. He's got more belts than you do in that division, and you're not even thinking about it?
If Jamal Charlo right now went and took a Triple G fight and put Triple G away, something nobody's been able to do, even at this age, that would put him on the map. That would make people say, yeah, that guy right there. Don't know if Canelo wants that guy, right? You gotta do something, man. You gotta do something. I don't know what's going on with him, but
he chilling.
He ain't fought him. It's 2 years, right?
2 years.
Yeah. But as crazy as it sounds, man, I think athletically, he gives Canelo the biggest problem.
Probably.
I think that of the names that we're mentioning, I think he has the best chance of like washing Canelo, so to speak, like dominating it, like maybe Bivol, just because of how he is athletically. But you're right. The inactivity is time, man. Like, what are you doing? Is he hurt? Is he out of what something? I mean, what? It got to be something, right? Something. Even if you just took a whatever fight, like, you got to fight, bro. It's time. It's time. So Yeah, I get Canelo on that, man. You dudes ain't earned this. You guys haven't earned it. What are you doing to earn this? And you know, he feels you see how he come to the ring, man, with the crown on. He feel like he the guy. I'm the king, man. Y'all, look, I'm not coming to y'all. So I get his point on that.
Did y'all notice he came with the crown on, and then he left the ring with like the Caesar crown?
I didn't even notice that.
Oh man, he said, "I got all the crowns, man. I'm carrying everything."
Right.
One more thing I wanted to talk about with Canelo, and that is he still the face of boxing? Because our guy Tank Davis, who put away Ryan Garcia in the 7th round, that fight generated. Some reported 1.1, some reported 1.4 million pay-per-view buys, which I believe is more than what Canelo has done in any of his fights, right? If it's 1.4, I think that's more than what I think Canelo did 1.3 against Triple G the first time. I think that was his highest pay-per-view.
I'm not sure what the Mayweather fight was, but I mean, I think that would probably, like you said, be higher, certainly, than anything that's come since then.
Sure. So people are saying Tank is a face of boxing now, and Canelo just did an interview not too long ago. In paraphrase, he said, "Hey, I'm not retired yet, so I'm still the guy." He gave a lot of respect to Canelo or Tank. It was funny how he said his name. He said he was trying to say Gervonta, but it sounded like something else. But he was saying he had a lot of respect for Gervonta, and his time is coming, but he's not there yet. You got to do more than just one fight to be that guy. And I thought he brought some good points, but I want to see what this fight does. Because the last couple of fights for Canelo, the pay-per-view sales have gone down, but it's still, 550,000 pay-per-view buys for Canelo is twice what Tank was doing, right? Tank's last fight with Hector Garcia was between 200 and 225 pay-per-view buys, which ain't bad, but it ain't Canelo. Now we gotta see how this John Ryder fight does. I can't see it doing less than 200,000, even though you don't really want to see that fight. Canelo is that popular, but if it does less or it does around that, then we can start looking at like maybe Tank is, at the very least, we could say Tank is gaining steam. All right. What are you guys' thoughts?
I agree with that. I get where Canelo was coming from, right? Even if you take away the numbers, the sales, the pay-per-view buys and stuff like that, I feel like, look, I'm the guy here, right? I've been here, I've been holding it down for a while. I think just from a popularity stance, right? And what it all boils down to is when you compare them to in this conversation, just exactly the direction you're taking it, like with the buys and sales and stuff like that. People are gonna bring that into the argument for sure. But I think from a popularity standpoint, stateside, right? From being the box office guy that draws the celebrity, the huge celebrity fan base and population jumping in and being in at his fights and stuff like that. I think Tank has thrusted himself to the front of that line, right? So you gotta recognize him, right? But I see what Canelo saying. He has a huge fan base. And he has been the face of boxing probably since Mayweather has left, right? And so that's been a while now. And he was that guy. He was Tank a couple years back when Mayweather was towards the end of his career, and he had thrusted himself to the front of that line in the mix of being the next face of boxing. So it's the same situation. But I just think it's different. I think it's a different it's a different argument. And I don't think he could sleep on the young boy as being is being box office. And look, let's just be honest, right? When you have a built-in fan base like a Canelo, and you know, people frowned on Canelo's numbers early when he took over as the new face of boxing, right?
Yeah.
They was expecting him to come out the gate and be selling like Mayweather, and he wasn't. So, you know, you would look at his numbers and you'd be like, yeah, okay, they're good, but we expected you to be Mayweather, right? And
Yeah.
you know, we all know Mayweather numbers. That's just, he was just on another planet with what he was doing. So for him to be there so long and be the face of boxing for so long, and what Tank has done in somewhat a short period of time, man, you got to take that into account of just how impressive that is in making himself one of the faces of boxing. So I see the argument for both sides, but I'm not mad at what Canelo said. I get it. Hey, I'm still here, bro. I'm not. I ain't going nowhere. I think I am, and I can't see him. Even him asking the question, I didn't expect him to be like, "Yeah, man, he's the face of boxing." While I'm sitting here,
Right.
no competitor like that is going to do that. So, you know, I'm not mad at it, but Tank is definitely in up there at the top of that line for sure.
It's creeping up, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think right now, realistically, he's probably third in line behind Canelo and Fury. But both those guys are winding down a bit. I mean, Canelo, you know, we'll see how much longer he wants to do it. Fury's basically, he's got one foot out the door. So, you know, I think, you know, when you try to compare him to Mayweather, it's not really fair because Mayweather was very lucky in the time that he came up, because it was a golden age for you know, the weight class that he was in. He had a lot of stars around him to fight.
You mean
Whether or
comparing
not
Canelo to Mayweather?
him or Gervonta, any of these. I mean, because right now, you know, Canelo doesn't have the stars around him to fight the way Mayweather did. And, you know, whether or not those guys were on Mayweather's level is not, you know, that's not even what I mean. Like, you had Oscar De La Hoya, who was one of the best selling fighters ever. You know, and he had him, right? You know, you had Shane Mosley, you had Miguel Cotto. You know, they had a lot of guys right around him that were stars in their own right that he could fight and do huge numbers with. Canelo doesn't have that. And Gervonta, even though you have a lot of really talented fighters there, you know, in Ryan Garcia, in Haney, and Shakur Stevenson, and all them, they're all really young and haven't made their names yet. So he's a few years ahead of them. They haven't really, you know, built themselves up into being those superstar type fighters yet. So, you know, of course, you're not going to see the same type of numbers. Now with Ryan, we know where his popularity comes from. You know, he's on social media. He's got a huge following there, and that's great for him. And I think, you know, that helped push this fight over the million mark.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't think that you know, we can't compare any of these fighters' numbers to what Mayweather was doing, you know, in his prime.
Right.
In terms of just right now, yeah, Gervonta is definitely on the rise for sure. And he's right there knocking on the door. And if that's something that Canelo cares about, you know, being the face of boxing, because, you know, he seems to be very into his legacy, right? That's why he's talking about wanting that Bivol fight. It's a legacy fight for him. So maybe that is something that pushes him into taking a Benavidez fight. You know, that's a fight that's going to satisfy the boxing purists, you know, the hardcore fans, and will do big numbers for him as well. You know, more so than a Berlanga, which will only get him halfway there, right? But I don't know how much he actually really cares about that. I mean, like Mike said, you're never going to say, yeah, that other dude is better than me.
Right.
So
yeah.
it is what it is. But I think still right now, you know, it's still Fury while he's still flirting with a Usyk fight and Canelo to do those top end numbers. But Gervonta, you know, as long as he keeps on winning, keeps on taking on tough fights, he's definitely right there in that conversation.
All right. And speaking of Tank, a fight that could be on the horizons for him that could help build on that is you know, the winner of this fight coming up May 20th, Devin Haney versus Vasyl Lomachenko. We discussed it on previous podcasts, you know, how we feel about the fight, but you know, as it draws near, I don't know, man. Like, you know, we talked about how this fight is going to sell. I'm not feeling as confident as I did before, but hopefully the fight does well. I mean, look, we get into a lot of talk about pay-per-view buys. That's kind of the thing that you talk about with boxing, because it kind of gauges the popularity of each boxer and, you know, the likelihood of another fight with another boxer that you like. That's kind of how it works. I hope all these fighters do well, because I want the sport to be popular. I want all these fights to do well. But man, like, you have to sell these fights, man. Like, you have to really promote these fights, so we can, you know, get bigger, you know, super fights, if you will, down the road. But look, Devin Haney, Vasyl Lomachenko, we've made our predictions. I am picking Devin Haney. B, you're picking Lomachenko in a close decision, right?
So, you know, I keep going back and forth, but I think where I'm settling is Devin Haney wins the fight and loses a split decision.
Okay. And Mikey, you're picking Haney?
Yeah, I'm going with Haney. I just think Haney's the bigger guy. I think he'll do what he has to do to win the fight.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, we don't need to rehash that. We're gonna, you know, that fight is coming up soon. I'm not sure who's gonna be on the undercard. Usually, I'll say this about top rank cards, man. They have some good undercards because they have a lot of good young prospects.
Mm-hmm.
So if they roll out their regular lineup, it'll be pretty entertaining. I'll give Top Rank that. I'm not a Bob Arum fan, but they have a lot of good young fighters in their stable, so they can put together a good pay-per-view card. So if you're wondering whether or not you should get it, I would recommend getting that fight. It will be entertaining.
Is it pay-per-view? Because I know they fight on ESPN. They selling it as a pay-per-view?
I thought it was pay-per-view. You know, ESPN Plus does pay-per-view still.
Yeah, I know they did the, but
yeah, I think it's pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It's pay-per-view. Okay.
So, yeah, you know, this is one I would recommend getting. I think it'll be an entertaining fight. Two excellent fighters. You know, I'm higher on Devin Haney than Lomachenko at this point, but this will really I think it's gonna determine a lot of things moving forward. Who does what? If Devin Haney loses, where does he go from there? Is it immediate rematch, or, you know, I don't see him fighting Tank if he loses to Lomachenko, right? I'm not sure if he fights Shakur Stevenson. Where does he go from there? It has to be rematch, right?
Yeah, I would think it would be. I mean, I'm assuming he has a rematch clause if he loses the fight. So I assume that's where they would go, unless it's just a complete wash. But to answer the undercard question, Andrew Maloney against Junto Nakatani, who's undefeated, 24-0 with 18 knockouts, and then also Nico Ali Walsh,
the grandson of Muhammad Ali. Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat. They are trying hard to hype this man up. He hasn't looked bad. I'll give him that. He hasn't looked bad. I don't see superstar yet, but he's still young, and we'll see how they develop this man. But yes, they want you to know so bad that he is the grandson of Muhammad Ali. They will let you know every time he appears on your screen. Okay, Nico Ali Walsh, the grandson of Muhammad Ali.
Multiple other fights. I think that the Ali Walsh fight, I think, is actually going to be before the pay-per-view.
Oh, okay.
Oscar Valdez versus Adam Lopez looks like the co-main.
Okay.
I think that's about it. But there are several other fights prior to the pay-per-view.
All right. So
yeah, and the ladies are fighting that night too.
Yes.
Who's fighting tonight?
Katie Taylor and Chantel Cameron.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they fight on the same night. So shout out to the ladies. The ladies
and Cecilia Breakus against Terry Harper is on that card as well.
Okay, so yeah, we'll cover that as well. Shout out to Katie Taylor. So if Katie Taylor wins this, is that a rematch with Amanda Serrano coming up?
I mean, I would think so. Right? Like, that's what they were trying to do here, and then I forget who. I guess I don't know if he got hurt or or sick or whatever, but they had this, swap out the opponent. So my assumption would be Cade Taylor wins, then they'll make that Serrano rematch.
Yeah.
Dope. I love it. The women don't play. So they make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, man. All right. Look, that's all I really had. Do we need to cover anything else? Nope.
No.
We are good. All right. So look, it was a fight. Okay. Canelo put on a little show. Didn't quite put the guy away, but he dominated. So good win for Canelo. We'll see what happens for him next. And Lomachenko, Haney next week. So there's some fights coming up. Make sure you watch them. You know what we never talked about? I don't think we ever talked about Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever discussed what happened in that last fight. He wins the fight, but something weird at the end, man. Like, I don't know, like he was like bear hugging the dude, wouldn't let him go.
Yeah.
Like
his last couple fights, he's had some questionable endings to the match. We remember him grabbing the microphone after the Usyk fight.
Yeah, that was weird too. That was weird.
But the rumors, man, he even said it. He said it on. I don't know if he was just joking with this guy that was recording him. But the rumors are this mega fight has somewhat legs of Usyk and mega card, Usyk and Fury and Joshua and Wilder on the same card.
That would be something.
Hella millions.
I cannot imagine that actually happening.
I thought, but it's keep. And Joshua said in this little clip that Wilder. That's next, so that's happening. So
that pay-per-view would be $175.
Sure.
Unless you bought a case of Dos Equis.
Yeah, but if it's true, man, the amount of money that is floating around that each fighter would get is ridiculous. So
that one would be in Saudi Arabia. Yes,
I'm about to say that would be funded by the Saudi Arabian government.
The Saudis, I think the Saudis have got behind this. So, yeah. You talking about in the 90 to 90 million range for fighters. Yeah.
If Bison puts together a card like that, we might have to actually live stream during the fight.
We might.
Yeah. But we've talked about that on Ring Kings before about why don't we see more mega cards, or why haven't we seen a mega card? So hey, that would be awesome. That'd be awesome to see.
If that happens, I would pray that does well, because if it did really well, if it did something like astronomical, 2 million, 3 million pay-per-view buys, something just crazy, that would prompt more fights like that, more cards, right?
Yeah.
So I hope it happens, and I hope it does historically well, so we can get more of that.
Yeah.
So, all right, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen that are watching and listening, thank you. This has been another episode of Ring Kings Podcast. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube, you hit the like button. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Ring Kings Pod. You can also hit up our Patreon if you're enjoying the content and you want to support us more. Patreon.com/LBHTShow. Okay, we have a few tiers there. Starting at the $5 tier. There's no more $3 tier. Okay, the price has gone up, but $5 still gets you a very good deal. So $5, $10, and $20 tiers. Make sure you go over there and check those out. And we got some merch. Go over to LBHTShow.com/shop. Okay, and check out our merch over there as well. But that is it. B, are you ready?
Ready.
B is ready to go. Thank you so much. Enjoy your week, and we will see you next time. Peace. Things that you